It was precisely this sense of sorrow that made the madman's eyes fill with even more moisture. In the end, he suddenly let out a cry, and to everyone's surprise, he started crying. His cry immediately stirred a sense of guilt in Wang Lin's heart. He felt as though he were an older man, tricking a child into giving up their toy. Forget it, cause and effect. I met this person in the realm of the Netherworld beast. He gave me immortal blood and granted me fortune. Now, I gained divine arts by this method. This matter will be repaid in the future. Cultivators rarely go mad. There must be a great story behind this person. I, Wang Lin, always distinguish between gratitude and enmity. Today, I swear again, from now on, his matters will be my matters. Wang Lin looked at the madman, and deep within his eyes, there was a hidden softness. I'm not lying. I clearly used the same divine art. This divine art is called Soul Subjugation Seal, which my brother snatched from the twin immortal venerables and taught me. The madman, perhaps not having washed his face in a long time, began to cry, and 2 streaks of black mud ran down his face. He wiped away his tears, revealing a sense of grievance, and shouted at Wang Lin. If you don't believe me, I'll tell you the incantation. I've never lied since I was a child. My brother said if I lie, he'll beat me. The madman, utterly distressed, immediately recited the full incantation for the soul subjugation seal, without a second thought. Look, this is the incantation. You practice it, and try it out. See for yourself if I'm lying. I clearly worked hard to win, but you cheated. I'm not playing with you anymore. The madman's anger flared again, full of grievance. He plopped down on the ground, angrily turning his head to avoid looking at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's heart pounded. He had memorized the incantation and, as he silently recited it in his heart, everything unclear before became crystal clear. He raised his right hand and pointed at the sky. In an instant, a perfect soul subjugation seal burst forth, roaring out with immense pressure that spread across the heavens and earth. Looking up at the soul subjugation seal, Wang Lin's pupils contracted. A wave of excitement spread through him. With his cultivation, he could clearly sense that this true soul subjugation seal was not merely a divine art, but a Taoist technique. A Taoist technique of extraordinary power, one capable of annihilating heaven and earth. Just one palm could cause Wang Lin's strength to expand rapidly through its strange transformations. And most importantly, the soul subjugation seal wasn't just a single palm. Inside it were 3 different energies. If all were unleashed, with enough cultivation, it could become 3 palms falling at once, striking body, soul, and spirit. The one water path master used only dealt with the body. But the divine art I've learned is the true soul subjugation seal. Wang Lin took a deep breath, imprinting the seal firmly in his mind, and turned his gaze toward the madman. In his eyes, the madman seemed to carry a huge treasure, one that could explode with priceless knowledge at any moment. All right, stop crying. I admit, your divine art is indeed impressive. I was wrong about you earlier. Wang Lin said with an apologetic tone, a softness in his eyes, and stood up, cupping his fists towards the madman. The madman snorted and turned his face away, refusing to look at Wang Lin. Wang Lin smiled bitterly, then pondered. He raised his right hand and grasped the air. Immediately, several pills appeared in his palm. These pills were carefully chosen, each emitting a strong fragrance as soon as they appeared. The madman's nose twitched. He instinctively inhaled a few breaths, licking his lips, though he stubbornly refused to look, even as his eyes kept darting sideways towards the pills. What are these pills worth? The worst one I fed Little Red years ago was better than these. Wang Lin's face showed a faint smile. He pinched one of the pills, applying a slight pressure. With a crisp sound, the pill cracked open, and the fragrance became even stronger, filling the air. The madman struggled to suppress his urges, but his stomach rumbled. He hadn't eaten pills in a long time, and was gradually losing his ability to resist. These pills are for you. Consider it compensation for wrongly accusing you earlier. Is that all right? Wang Lin's voice softened as he slowly waved the pills toward the madman, who stared at them. The madman swallowed a mouthful of saliva, turned around, and stared at the pills with disdain. These things. I wouldn't even look at them back in the day. They're so inferior. Fine. Since you're being so flattering, I'll reluctantly accept. He said this as his right hand shot out, grabbing the pills, his eyes gleaming. Without hesitation, he tossed them into his mouth, chewing a few times before swallowing them. Wang Lin smiled, cupping his fists once again. Your divine art is indeed remarkable. But I wonder, is that the only one you know? The madman, full of pride, suddenly showed a hint of wariness. He turned his head sharply, staring at Wang Lin. I remember hearing someone say this before, but who was it? Little Red, do you remember who said this? I forgot. But I do remember that the purpose of that person saying it was to trick me into revealing my divine arts. Someone as smart as me wouldn't fall for that. You can't deceive me into revealing my Tao art. Even if I die, I will never tell you any of my incantations or divine abilities. The madman raised his head, and with a cold snort, there was a sense of superiority in his demeanor. He shook his head and sighed. Learning too many Tao arts is quite troublesome. There's nothing I can do, my natural talent is just too high, so I ended up learning more. But since you're being so respectful, I'll show you a bit. However, don't even think about me teaching you, no way. As the madman said this, he stood up, stretched out his arms, and after a satisfied stretch, he raised his right hand. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and a sea of crimson flames erupted, whirling into existence. A massive umbrella materialized out of thin air. This umbrella, with the sky as its canopy, revealed an immense firestorm beneath it. The umbrella's shaft formed from the concentrated flames. A world-ending inferno filled the surroundings, and 9 flame-like projections emerged, each burning with an indescribable and terrifying aura. Wang Lin's pupils contracted as he recognized it. This technique was very similar to his own world-incinerating umbrella, but there was a key difference. The technique he mastered required opening the umbrella, but the madman's version opened automatically the moment it appeared. It seemed similar, but the gap between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. So what do you think? Impressive, right? If this umbrella were to close, its power would be immense. The madman waved his hand, and the umbrella silently vanished into the sky. I won't teach you. You can see it, but you can't learn it. I still have more. Watch closely. The madman, growing more pleased, raised his hands and formed seals. Immediately, he began to take the posture of drawing a bow and shooting an arrow. If he had a bow in his hands, it would have been almost identical to the scene Wang Lin once saw with Taoist Li Guang. A tremendous arrow aura erupted from the madman's hands, as if at any moment, the world would be torn apart by this energy. I know so much more. What's this? I've got plenty more. The madman, clearly excited, especially after noticing Wang Lin's serious expression, was even more delighted. After a loud roar, he released his hands. As the arrow aura dissipated, he quickly formed another seal and swung his hands toward the sky. The sky trembled, and 7 colors of light, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, burst forth, rapidly condensing into a colorful spear. This spear shook the heavens and earth, occupying the entire sky. As it moved, thunderous roars followed, and it seemed as though the very sky would be torn apart. The intense radiance from the spear's tip gave Wang Lin a shiver, and in an instant, cold sweat broke out across his body. The 7-colored light contained an emotional power, and as it emerged, it seemed to influence the emotions of anyone who saw it. This was similar to the ethereal flame, but from Wang Lin's perception, it far surpassed the latter. The madman laughed wildly as he released his hands, and the sky returned to normal. His face beamed with exhilaration as he chuckled. What do you think? Am I impressive? Do you want to learn? Do you? I'll tell you, there are so many people who want to learn my divine arts. I've seen all sorts of people, and no one can deceive me. Not even if they beat me to death, will I teach them. You want to learn? Too bad. I can't teach you. Oh, how pitiful. The madman shook his head, his expression even more smug. Let me think. How would you respond? I remember someone once answered no, then pretended to be indifferent, trying to spark my interest. And the result? Haha, guess what happened? Ha, it's hilarious. The madman immediately clutched his belly and laughed loudly. If you answer yes, I'll reject you firmly. Little miss, my lips are very tight. No amount of seduction will work. The madman continued to babble on, growing more excited the more he spoke. Looking at the madman, Wang Lin slowly smiled. I remember from the Netherworld beast's memories that this person didn't recognize the beast and was quite frightened by it. Seems like he was scared back then. Wang Lin's smile deepened. The madman, under Wang Lin's gaze, especially seeing his smile, felt an unsettling feeling. He vaguely remembered that it was after Wang Lin smiled like this that he had to continuously perform the soul subjugation seal for hours, exhausting himself to the point of gasping for breath. At that moment, the entire cultivation star suddenly trembled. The gray sky quickly darkened as if a storm was brewing. A loud rumble echoed as the sky seemed to tear apart, and a massive phantom slowly emerged from the heavens. Absolute the shadow was massive, resembling a whale, especially with two long whiskers on its face, constantly swaying. It was the Netherworld beast. As it sensed Wang Lin's summon, it projected a soul shadow within this realm. The moment it appeared, the smug expression on the madman's face instantly collapsed. His pupils contracted, his body violently trembled, and he let out a sharp, piercing scream. Ew, you actually tracked me here. You damn murderer. Why can't you just let me go? I'm not tasty, really not tasty. Upon recognizing it, the Netherworld beast immediately roared within its soul, sending out a terrifying howl. The madman trembled, and the roar grew even fiercer. With that roar, the madman's fear deepened. He quickly retreated, his face turning pale. If Wang Lin weren't here, the Netherworld beast would have undoubtedly fled in a frenzy. However, its other side, driven by its nature, caused it to pause after a brief moment of fear. Its dull eyes slowly shifted, and its expression twisted into a vicious snarl. It once again lowered its head and roared at the madman, its massive form materializing as it charged forward. The madman screamed in agony, rapidly retreating. The closer he got to the beast, the more ferocious it appeared. With two massive whiskers flicking wildly, a loud bang echoed as one of them struck the madman, causing him to scream and fall back. At the same time, as the whisker hit him, the Netherworld beast staggered back, then stood its ground and roared menacingly again. Little Red, come save me. You go let it eat you. Don't let it eat me. I'm really not tasty, I swear. The madman trembled all over, completely scared out of his wits. Protect me, protect me. Any brave warrior, come protect me. He babbled incoherently, slipping and falling to the ground as he continued to crawl backward. His expression was one of utter despair, his fear of the Netherworld beast painfully evident. In his moment of hopelessness, Wang Lin stepped forward, positioning himself in front of the madman. His figure, at that instant, seemed towering to the madman. You're the best. You're so kind to me, better than my brother. Hurry, stop this ferocious beast, it wants to eat me. I'm really not tasty. The madman's face lit up with excitement, his astonishment at Wang Lin's appearance in his time of peril almost making him forget everything. In his eyes, Wang Lin had become his only pillar of support. I'll reward you. I'll give you Little Red. I'll give you Little Silver Dow. I'll even give you that Rainbow Maiden. I have 40,000 beauties in my harem. They're all yours. Wang Lin didn't speak, but raised his right hand and pressed forward. At the same time, a divine thought emanated from his mind, causing the Netherworld beast to pause. With its intelligence, it couldn't quite comprehend the thought, staring blankly as it pondered. Though it was thinking, its body moved instinctively towards Wang Lin, its massive head attempting to make contact. To the madman's eyes, it seemed as though the gigantic Netherworld beast was charging at Wang Lin. In an instant, the Netherworld beast collided with Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin's expression shifted as he spat a mouthful of blood, stumbling backward several steps before grabbing the madman and quickly retreating. The moment Wang Lin retreated, the Netherworld beast froze, staring at him with confusion in its eyes. It couldn't understand why its master was retreating. Hadn't it just failed to hit him? Yet under Wang Lin's divine thought, the Netherworld beast complied. In its mind, it seemed like its master wanted to play a game, and it couldn't help but feel thrilled. With a low growl, it charged forward, its massive body causing the heavens and earth to tremble, a thunderous roar echoing across the land. It's coming again. It's coming again. It wants to eat me. It won't let me go. The madman screamed, shaking in Wang Lin's grip. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with more sympathy, though he kept it hidden, not letting it show. Brave warrior, save me. Brave warrior, save me. I'll have my brother make you a king. I'll have him give you all his concubines. Brave warrior, save me. This beast is incredibly powerful. Even I am no match for it. It loves eating people, devouring them alive, slowly chewing them up, then continually corroding them. If the body is weak, it dies in an instant. The most terrifying thing is when the physical body is nearly indestructible. In such cases, it has to be constantly bitten and corroded by it, continuously for thousands or even tens of thousands of years, until death. Wang Lin grabbed the madman and quickly retreated, but he couldn't outrun the Netherworld beast, maintaining a certain distance. This distance was extremely close. It was as if the beast's whiskers were right in front of him. This proximity caused immense pressure on the madman, filling him with intense fear. What should we do? What should we do? Or maybe you should let it eat you. Once it's full, maybe it won't eat me anymore. The madman trembled, on the verge of tears, with moisture quickly gathering in his eyes. Wang Lin was so enraged by these words that he laughed. He turned to stare at the madman and spoke, word by word. Look at its enormous body. Do you think it would be full after eating just one? The madman was stunned. He carefully looked back at the Netherworld beast, which was wildly chasing them, and his face immediately turned pale. He quickly shook his head. It's a pity. I have all this cultivation, but no divine powers to manifest. Sigh, if only I had those divine powers, I might be able to drive this beast away. Wang Lin sighed deeply. Yeah, what should we do? What should we do? I'm going to die. I'm going to be eaten. It's over. It's over. The madman trembled, his eyes filled with despair. I've always been afraid of fierce beasts, especially ones as large as this one. At that moment, the two whiskers of the Netherworld beast swept across mindlessly, directly passing in front of the madman, creating a fierce wind that slapped his face. The madman screamed again. I know divine powers. I know divine powers. Yes, that's it. I know. I'm so clever. Quickly, learn them. After learning them, drive this giant beast away. The madman's eyes suddenly lit up in terror, and he quickly spoke loudly. Without hesitation, he immediately recited the incantation and everything about the world incinerating umbrella. Wang Lin remained calm, but his heart suddenly raced faster. He memorized every detail of the incantation and everything related to it, repeatedly verifying it in his mind. The more he verified, the graver his expression became. The incantation was extremely accurate. This was the true divine art of the great Tao, a technique so profound that even the Lord of the Vermilion Bird only managed to steal fragments of it, never fully mastering it. However, this level of divine art was not something that could be learned instantly. It required years of closed-door cultivation and constant enlightenment before it could truly be manifested. Wang Lin raised his left hand, forming a seal and waving it forward. Immediately, millions of restrictions manifested, and the stolen world incinerating umbrella appeared in the sky. As soon as the umbrella appeared, the Netherworld beast stopped. Fear appeared in its eyes as its confused mind could not understand why its master had used such divine powers on it. But the umbrella collapsed almost instantly. Wang Lin quickly retreated with the madman, speaking, Still not enough. Huh? Not enough? I have the Li clan's shattered sky bao technique. I'll teach it to you. Quickly, drive this giant beast away. The madman, panicking, immediately recited the incantation for the bao technique. Once finished, he was still uneasy. As the whiskers of the Netherworld beast swept past, the madman hurriedly added, Also, the rainbow art. I'll tell you. But I can't say anything more. Even if this giant beast swallows me, I can't say it. Wang Lin didn't want to press the madman too hard. If it weren't for the powerful effect of these divine powers, he wouldn't be acting this way. At that moment, his heart was filled with even more regret. However, he also knew that, in his heart, there was already a debt of karma. Though it might seem shameless, Wang Lin would repay it many times over in the future. Cultivators, once they make a decision, never hesitate. Wang Lin was exactly that kind of person. The madman's kindness was deeply engraved in his heart, and he would never forget it. Even if he encountered great calamity in the future, he would not hesitate to act. This was all because of 4 words that defined his character. A debt of gratitude must be repaid. After memorizing the Rainbow Spear and the Li Clan's bow technique, Wang Lin suddenly stopped. He raised his left hand and directed it at the approaching Netherworld beast. With a rumble, Wang Lin released the madman with his right hand, throwing him towards the ground. At the same time, he waved his right hand, and dense fog enveloped the sky, obscuring the madman's view of the Netherworld beast. Thunderous explosions reverberated throughout the world. The madman landed on the ground, trembling, but his eyes became filled with excitement as he looked at the mist in the sky. "You're not a warrior. You're my benefactor. My brother always said, when you receive kindness, you must repay it. Don't worry, after you die, I will repay you. Go ahead and block this giant beast." The madman quickly climbed to his feet and, without looking back, sprinted off into the distance. "Benefactor, take care. I will remember this, and I will repay you." The madman ran faster and faster, disappearing into the distance in the blink of an eye. The thunder in the sky grew increasingly intense, but it didn't last long. With a loud crash, the mist dissipated, and Wang Lin stepped out, glancing at the madman in the distance before taking a step forward. The Netherworld beast followed closely behind him, its sinister form chasing after the madman. The madman ran, but upon glancing back, he immediately let out a horrified scream and muttered to himself, "It's over. It's over. I'm going to be eaten." In his fear, he gritted his teeth, shut his eyes tightly, stretched out his neck, and yelled, "Eat me. Eat me. What's the big deal? Just eat me." However, after waiting for a long time, he felt no sensation of being eaten. Fearfully, he slowly opened his eyes and froze in place. What he saw was the giant beast, the very one that had terrified him, now acting affectionately, rubbing itself against Wang Lin. Wang Lin's right hand rested on the beast's body, gently patting it. "You tamed it? You actually tamed it." The madman blinked, and his eyes suddenly lit up with wild excitement, staring fixedly at Wang Lin. "My brother said there are many experts in the cosmic star heaven. You must be one of them. This beast is so terrifying. I bet even my brother couldn't tame it. You're an expert. Please take me as your disciple. You have to take me as your disciple." The madman immediately dropped to his knees, banging his head on the ground repeatedly, his expression solemn and his eyes filled with wild admiration. "With the oath of my immortal ancestor, I, Lian Daofei, vow to serve you as my master. I will never betray the sect for the rest of my life. I salute you, master." As he spoke, the madman lifted his right hand and struck it against his forehead. A strange force spread from within his body, rushing toward Wang Lin and merging with him in the blink of an eye. This scene left Wang Lin momentarily stunned. He had intended to frighten the madman and extract the incantations of the divine arts, but he hadn't expected this unexpected turn of events. "Master, please teach me how you tamed this beast. I want to learn that technique. After I learn it, whenever I encounter a beast that wants to eat me, I'll just charge right at it and tame it." The madman looked at Wang Lin excitedly, getting up and sitting beside him, speaking with great pride. Inside, he was thinking, I'm so smart. I found an expert for my brother, and I'm going to learn the divine arts. This is a great deal. My brother will definitely praise me when he finds out." Wang Lin's expression turned strange. He slapped the Netherworld beast, which immediately vanished, its presence fading into nothing. The entire cultivation star fell silent, leaving only the two of them. Wang Lin's gaze fell on the madman's face, and he slowly smiled. "The divine art you used to tame this beast is quite profound. It's not yet time for me to teach you, and I need to know which other divine arts you know before I can decide," Wang Lin said softly. The madman blinked, then replied, "I don't know any others. That's all. I've forgotten the rest." "You won't tell me? Then never mind," Wang Lin said with a smile, then his tone shifted. "But would you like to leave here?" The madman's face immediately lit up with excitement. He quickly stood up, nodding vigorously. "Yes, I've been wanting to leave for a long time, but I couldn't find a way out. I can take you away, but first, I need to know which of your divine arts is the strongest," Wang Lin said, sitting cross-legged with a light laugh. "The 9 supreme Tao of the immortal. Even my brother has only mastered the 7th Tao," the madman said quickly, then clamped his hand over his mouth and shook his head furiously. I can't go into detail about it. I have an oath Tao inside me, and if I speak too much, I'll suffer immortal punishment, he explained, but he didn't release his grip, instead, pinching his nose and glancing over at Wang Lin. His demeanor didn't match what he had just said. Wang Lin shook his head and smiled, deciding not to press further. Although he was greedy for more, he had already gained a great deal from this person. If he pushed too far, it would be excessive. Moreover, extracting the 4 divine art incantations had already taken up a considerable amount of time for Wang Lin to process. He had no time to seek out more divine arts. In 3 days, I will take you away, Wang Lin said, closing his eyes and quietly meditating. He knew time was short and that he needed to quickly gain enough Tao fruit to carry out his plan and deal with the repulsive force hanging over him like a sword. 3 days. He needed to compress the repulsive force within his body to maintain a certain level of strength while completing the remaining tasks. No, I've already sworn you as my master. You can't leave me without teaching me any divine arts. I won't accept it. Teach me your divine arts, or you'll be bullying me. The madman saw Wang Lin closing his eyes and immediately became upset. He rushed over to Wang Lin's side and began shouting again. The shouting grew louder and louder until he seemed to tire. Finally, he sat across from Wang Lin, continuing to ramble incessantly. You can't bully me like this. I've given you several divine art incantations already. You have to give me some too. Just one is fine. Little Red, don't you think so? No one should be bullied like this. I can tolerate it. But can you, Little Red? Wang Lin was roused from his deep thoughts as the crazy man chattered on, opening his eyes. With a wave of his right hand, a gust of golden wind howled into the sky, spreading and transforming into 9 golden dragons. As they roared, they unleashed a purple wind so cold that the moment it appeared, the earth cracked, and everything was frozen solid with a resounding snap. This technique summons the wind. I'll teach you. The madman glanced at the sky, his eyes full of disdain. Don't try to fool me. I'm not stupid. This tiny divine art, I'm not learning it. Wang Lin waved his hand, causing the 9 dragons to vanish, and with a single pointed gesture, the sky darkened. Thunderclouds rolled in quickly, and the entire sky was soon covered. With a deafening roar, rain poured down, golden rain, and as it fell, the primordial forces of heaven and earth began to rapidly gather. It's raining. Little Red, look, it's raining. The madman paused for a moment, staring at the scene, then yawned and muttered, trying to fool me again. What kind of divine art is this? I won't learn it. Summoning the wind and rain, summoning soldiers with a handful of beans, even the mountain collapse technique. Wang Lin demonstrated them all. But each time, the madman would only glance at them, shaking his head and gradually growing angrier, roaring at Wang Lin. You old ghost, you're so stingy. Can't you show me some better divine arts? You're going too far. Wang Lin stared at the madman, took a deep breath, and then proceeded to demonstrate the heavenly seal, light and shadow escape, and even the Tao art fusion, which were all passed down to him by Taoist Blue Dream. What is this? This is the heavenly seal. I won't learn it. Why are you naked all over? What kind of divine art is this? I won't learn it. This Tao art fusion is too weak. I can take everything with a single mouthful of blood. I won't learn it. Wang Lin frowned and slowly spoke. What exactly do you want to learn? The madman was even more furious, shouting, You just don't want to teach me. I want to learn the divine art you used to subdue that giant beast. Wang Lin felt a headache coming on. After thinking for a moment, he raised his right hand, pointed forward, and instantly, the entire world of the cultivation star turned black. Suddenly, it transformed into an ocean, and at the end of the sea, a rising sun slowly appeared, casting its immense light. Beneath the radiance, the force of twilight surged forth. The madman's eyes lit up for a moment, but then his excitement dimmed. Pouting, he shook his head. This is nice, but I've got something even better than this. Wang Lin's patience wore thin. With another wave of his hand, he dissipated the darkness and the rising sun, conjuring a massive stone gate between heaven and earth. The force of time's passage filled the surroundings. The thunderous sound echoed as time spun rapidly, as though thousands of years were passing in an instant. The madman stared at it for a while, but then shook his head again. This stone gate isn't as good as the one at my mansion's entrance. What's there to see? I won't learn it. Even someone as patient as Wang Lin couldn't endure it anymore. Taking a deep breath, he displayed nearly all the divine arts he had learned in his life, letting the madman choose. But by the end, the madman still shook his head each time. It wasn't just shaking his head. The madman was angrier than Wang Lin, his rage growing stronger, and he yelled repeatedly, "You're a master. You can't just know these few divine arts. You just don't want to teach me." Enough! Wang Lin interrupted the madman's shouting, laughing bitterly with anger. Coldly, he said, "The last divine art. Learn it or not." With that, Wang Lin raised his right hand without needing any hand seals, and he unleashed his first ever learned divine art, gravity manipulation. Given his cultivation, casting this art was incredibly easy. The moment it was cast, a massive stone lifted from the earth, swirling in midair. The madman blinked, staring at the stone in the sky. A bright gleam appeared in his eyes. He suddenly stood up, rubbed his eyes furiously, and then clapped his hands in excitement. "This is fun. Haha, this is fun. I'll learn this. Master, you really are a master to have such a divine art." Wang Lin, too tired to deal with the madman anymore, took out a jade slip and imprinted the gravity manipulation art inside. He tossed it to the madman, closed his eyes, and began breathing deeply. The madman eagerly grabbed the jade slip, immediately focused, and after a brief moment, his face lit up with joy. He jumped and cheered, quickly learning the gravity manipulation art. With a loud shout, he ran far off, pointing his right hand forward. The earth trembled, and a stone lifted from the ground. "This is fun. This is fun." The madman's face was filled with excitement as he pointed again, lifting dozens of stones into the air, making them swirl around his body. As the stones spun, he followed their movement, circling faster and faster. Eventually, dizziness set in, but his expression was ecstatic, and laughter filled the air. Still unsatisfied, the madman ran farther, leapt into the air, and pointed toward the ground. Countless cracks appeared in the earth, and massive stones flew into the air, swirling around him. Hundreds, even thousands of them. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. When the third day arrived, Wang Lin opened his eyes. The golden light in his eyes gradually faded, and unless one looked closely, they wouldn't have noticed. But as Wang Lin opened his eyes and looked into the distance, he frowned and shook his head with a wry smile. In the distance, there was a madman's angry laughter. Around him were thousands of stones, surrounding him like soldiers. On the opposite side, there were also thousands of stones, resembling enemies. He was actually controlling so many stones, battling and colliding with them midair. "Rainbow Maiden, will you submit to me? I have an army of tens of thousands. If you refuse, I will be furious." After shouting, the madman immediately ran into the mass of stones opposite, twisted his body, raised his hand in a delicate gesture, and spoke in a charming tone. "You filthy thief, if you have the guts, come over here." Wang Lin helplessly smiled and saw that the madman was enjoying himself. He sighed and stood up, walking forward. "Enough, you can play outside." The madman, still unwilling to stop, excitedly followed Wang Lin, occasionally glancing back at the stones, his eyes showing reluctance, as if he were contemplating whether to take them all with him. "There's plenty of space outside." Wang Lin spoke with a sense of helplessness. The two walked further and further, gradually disappearing from this realm. The voice carried an excitement that seemed to have been suppressed for countless years. As the sound erupted, a dirty, thin figure began to scream and rush back and forth in the debris zone. Wang Lin had already grown used to the madman's noise, ignoring his wild behavior, and silently gazed ahead, looking at the starry sky, feeling the familiar aura within it. The scent of home. Finally home. Wang Lin's eyes showed a trace of melancholy. He had a home in Kungsu, a home in Vermilion Bird, but he no longer had family. All that remained were the departed souls. He didn't even know why he was going home, not just for Qing Shui or Situ Nan and the others, but because deep inside him, after thousands of years of wandering, there was an indescribable clarity, a strange force in Kungsu that he couldn't let go of. even though he no longer had family. Sadness appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. This sadness had pervaded his entire life. He stared blankly ahead, and after a long time, he closed his eyes. There were no tears, only sorrow. The madman's howls gradually weakened. He looked at Wang Lin in confusion, scratched his head, and came closer. His eyes were filled with uncertainty. He had never seen this expression on Wang Lin, but he could vaguely sense the sorrow coming from his soul. "Hey, little maiden, what's wrong? Come talk to me. Did someone bully you? I'll stand up for you." The madman placed his hands on his hips, lifting his chin in what seemed like an imposing manner. Wang Lin opened his eyes, remained silent, shook his head, and took a step forward, heading straight for the distant starry sky, walking heavily, one step at a time. He walked slowly, his gaze fixed on the starry sky. Everything here felt familiar to him. The more familiar it felt, the stronger the melancholy in his heart. He couldn't even explain why this time felt more sorrowful than when he returned from Luotian. Perhaps it was because he had experienced so much and traveled so far. "Don't do this. You're making me feel bad too. I really miss home. Little Red, Little Silver, you two damn guys. Why haven't you come to find me? I want to go home. I want to go home." The madman, following Wang Lin, slowly became influenced by his mood and also became downcast. However, the madman's mood changed quickly. Before long, he had completely forgotten the sadness, becoming excited again. He roared and manipulated the surrounding stones to circle around him, charging forward with a joyful cry. Wang Lin silently walked ahead, slowly burying his sadness and hiding his weariness. There were still many things he had to do. He couldn't rest yet. Looking at the madman playing in the distance, but never straying too far from him, Wang Lin couldn't help but feel a sense of envy. He envied the madman's joy, how no matter what happened, he would forget it in an instant and always find ways to make himself happy. Something Wang Lin could never do. Thus, amid the madman's cheerful laughter and hoarse shouts, the two walked deeper into the starry sky, farther and farther. Not long after, a huge cultivation star appeared ahead. The size of this star was similar to that of the Destiny Star from years ago, but the small protective stars floating around it far surpassed those of Destiny Star. Wang Lin had never been to this star before, and it felt unfamiliar to him. Around it, ripples seemed to emanate, revealing a force of restriction. The entire cultivation star was silent, as if it were a dead zone, with no sound at all. Just as Wang Lin was about to look further, the madman also saw the cultivation star. His entire being immediately cheered, his eyes shining, and he suddenly shouted loudly, "Wow, wow, wow! So many people, so many maidens. This place is amazing. This king finally sees other people. How fun! How fun!" The madman rubbed his hands together in excitement, then turned with eager eyes to Wang Lin. "I want to go play there." Wang Lin swept his gaze across the cultivation star. None of the cultivators on the planet seemed to notice him, yet everything on the star was already clearly imprinted in his mind. This was a 7th-grade cultivation star, densely populated with mortals divided into nearly 100 nations. There were quite a few cultivators as well, though most were still in the first step, and second-step cultivators were rare. The strongest cultivator on the surface was at the pure nirvana stage. However, beneath the planet's central region lay a cavern where 4 ancient monsters were in long-term seclusion. Among them, the strongest had reached the 3rd heavenly decay, but only one had done so. The other 2 were at the 1st decay, while the last one had achieved shattered nirvana. Within the cavern, the alternating forces of ice and fire flowed. Clearly, the 4 of them were using this power to suppress their inner decay tribulations, trying to endure them over time. "I have important matters to attend to. I can't accompany you to play." Wang Lin withdrew his gaze. He knew no one on this star could harm the madman. "No worries, I'll go have fun on my own. If you followed me around, this king would feel stifled. Even if you insisted on coming, this king wouldn't allow it." The madman snorted proudly. Wang Lin was silent for a moment. He looked at the madman with gentleness in his eyes and said slowly, "Do you really have to go there? Stay with me for now. Once I finish my business, I'll take you to play." The madman shook his head vigorously and looked back toward the cultivation star. Excitement lit up his eyes as he muttered, "So many people, it must be fun. So many little maidens, and plenty of cultivators too. Haha, I ran away in the first place just to find places like this to play. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm going there." Seeing the madman's expression, Wang Lin gave a bitter smile. After pondering for a moment, he still felt uneasy. The madman's mind was like that of a child. Though he possessed the indestructible body, there was always the risk of being tricked. Wang Lin could tolerate the madman fooling others, but never the other way around. He was a man of clear principle. This madman had given him great fortune and kindness. He would not allow anyone to bring harm upon him, not even slightly. No. With a sweep of his sleeve, Wang Lin sent out a surge of golden light that wrapped around the madman and started pulling him away. Instantly, fury ignited in the madman's eyes. He roared and struggled violently within the golden light. Whatever divine art he used, he burst out of it in the blink of an eye. His anger was mixed with smugness as he shouted at Wang Lin. "Damn it, you dare control this king? Not even my big brother could manage me. If this king wants to go play somewhere, then he will go. So what if you're my master?" "Humph. How many masters do I even have? Let me count. 1, 3, 8. I forgot. Whatever, there's loads of them. None of them can control me. I'm going to play, and that's final." The madman glared fiercely at Wang Lin, baring his teeth with a savage expression. Wang Lin stared coldly at him. He was not one to spoil others, and he preferred peace. Hearing the madman speak with such defiance, he snorted and raised his right hand. With a grasping motion, a storage rift opened, and 2 beams of light shot out. From the first beam came an excited shout. "I'm not going back. No matter what you say, I'm not going back. Every damn time you need me, you toss me out. When you don't, you chuck me back in. I may be a sword spirit, but I've done real work for you. You little demon. You can't treat me like this." It was the filthy-mouthed Su Ligua, bursting out of the light with a flash. His eyes darted around the moment he appeared, then immediately locked onto the madman. The madman blinked, then turned his gaze to Su Ligua. The two stared at each other for quite a while, until from the second beam of light emerged a cautious figure, Lu Jinbiao. He looked around nervously, then focused a wary gaze on the madman, giving him a long, suspicious look before clearing his throat and stepping out. "You two, stay with him on this cultivation star. Don't let him suffer even the slightest harm." Wang Lin's voice held an unmistakable authority. He rarely repeated himself. His words carried weight. His eyes passed over the madman one last time before he turned and stepped away, vanishing into the starry sky in an instant. He headed straight toward the headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance. "Brother Qingshui, Wang Lin has arrived." After Wang Lin left, the madman and Su Ligua stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, they both opened their mouths at the same time. "Little maiden, tell this king your name." "Who the hell are you?" Su Ligua froze, then instantly exploded with rage. He glared at the madman and growled. "Who are you calling a little maiden? I'm a man, damn it." The madman let out a loud laugh, pointing at Su Ligua as if he wanted to say something. But before he could speak, he clutched his stomach and laughed even harder, nearly rolling on the ground. "You're a man? Ha 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 ha. Little Red, come quick. This sword spirit says he's not a little maiden. Ha, this is killing me. Ah, is it raining? Oh, Little Red, it's raining. Go get me the umbrella." As he muttered to himself, a dazed and confused look appeared in his eyes. He gradually stopped laughing and just stared blankly at Su Ligua. Under his gaze, Su Ligua blinked, his expression strange. He glanced at Lu Jinbiao, who had been watching the madman, and gave him a questioning look. Lu Jinbiao's expression grew serious. He took a few steps forward, his gaze constantly scanning the madman, especially examining his face. After a long moment, he turned to Su Ligua, nodded, and smiled. However, the smile seemed somehow off, filled with a hint of distaste. "Madman? Yeah, he's a madman, no doubt about it." Su Ligua and Lu Jinbiao locked eyes, and, slowly, both turned to look at the madman, grinning.